While I was putting my 8-year-old son in the ground, my mother sent me a Zillow listing for a $1.5 million beach house with the caption "Fresh Start." That's not where this story starts, but that's the moment I realized my family wasn't coming to the funeral. They were shopping. With my dead son's money. The cemetery in Savannah was brutal that day. The kind of heat that makes your dress stick to your skin and your mascara run before you even start crying. I stood there alone, completely alone, next to a casket that was way too small for any casket to be. I kept checking my phone. Kept looking at the cemetery gates. My parents lived 40 minutes away. My sister Sloane was supposedly flying in from Atlanta. The service was scheduled for 2 p.m. It was already 2:30. The priest kept glancing at me with this uncomfortable look. Peter's third-grade teacher was there, crying quietly. A few neighbors. But no family. Nobody who shared my blood. Nobody who'd held Peter as a baby or taught him to ride a bike or kissed his scraped knees. I made excuses in my head. Traffic. Flight delays. Car trouble. My mother was always dramatic about being on time. Sloane probably overslept. They'd show up. They had to show up. The priest started the final prayers. Still nothing. Then they lowered the casket, and I heard the first shovel of dirt hit the wood. That sound breaks something inside you. It's so permanent. So absolutely final. My phone buzzed in my purse. I grabbed it immediately, thinking it was finally the apology text. The "We're so sorry we're stuck in traffic" message. Something. Anything. It was a notification from my mother. But it wasn't a text. It was a shared link. A Zillow listing. I clicked it, standing there with dirt being thrown onto my son's casket, and my phone loaded a sprawling 5-bedroom estate on the Georgia coast. Massive windows. Ocean views. The kind of house you see in magazines. The price was right there at the top, $1.5 million. The exact amount of Peter's life insurance policy and trust fund combined. The caption my mother had written, "Fresh Start." I stared at that screen while they finished burying my son. The tears on my face weren't from grief anymore. They were from something else. Something colder. My family wasn't delayed. They'd never planned to come at all. I drove home in a daze. My old sedan's air conditioning blasted against my sweat-soaked dress. The back seat was filled with funeral flowers, white lilies that the funeral home had sent because someone had to send something. The smell was so thick it made me nauseous. It smelled like death, like endings. My apartment was silent when I walked in. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums. I dropped my keys on the counter and just stood there, staring at the kitchen table where Peter used to eat breakfast. His favorite chair was pushed in, exactly how he'd left it the morning before the accident. I waited for the breakdown. I'd seen it in movies, the moment where you collapse and sob and scream. I waited for my knees to buckle. It didn't happen. Instead, this weird clarity settled over me. Cold and sharp. Like suddenly I could see everything in high definition. I opened my laptop. I needed to know if I was crazy. If I was being paranoid. So I logged into the florist's website, the one my mother used for every birthday and anniversary. I had her password because I was always the one who actually ordered the flowers she took credit for. I found the order for the funeral spray. Date ordered, 14 days ago. 2 weeks before the funeral, my mother had pre-ordered flowers and scheduled delivery. Which meant she'd known 2 weeks in advance that she wouldn't be there. That none of them would be there. They'd planned their absence like a dentist appointment. I sat there staring at that date stamp, and something inside me fundamentally shifted. It wasn't anger yet. It was recognition. The kind you get when you finally see a magic trick explained and realize how obvious it was the whole time. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there and felt the last piece of hope inside me snap. That stupid, childish hope that my family actually loved me. Then I opened a new tab. I pulled up the joint credit card I shared with my sister. I'd added Sloane as an authorized user 3 years ago when she claimed she needed help building credit. I scrolled through the recent charges. The day I was at the funeral home picking out a casket, she'd spent $400 at Sephora in Atlanta. The day I was writing Peter's eulogy, she dropped $200 at some trendy sushi place. While I was choosing hymns, she'd bought concert tickets. I clicked Remove Authorized User and hit Confirm. Next, I opened the smart home app for the family vacation cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains. They called it the family cabin, but my name was the only one on the deed. I'd bought it with my divorce settlement, a place where Peter could see snow. He'd loved that cabin. Loved building snowmen and drinking hot chocolate by the fireplace. My parents used it every other weekend to host their bougie friends, playing wealthy retirees while I paid the property taxes and utilities. I went to the digital lock settings. Deleted my father's access code. Deleted my mother's. Deleted Sloane's. Access denied. Then I went down the list. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, the shared cloud storage. Every single digital service they'd latched onto over the years. Click, delete, confirm. Each one felt like cutting a rope. And I wasn't cutting them loose. I was cutting myself free. I remembered what my mother had said to me last week when I'd called her crying about organizing the funeral. She'd looked at my drafting table covered in botanical illustrations, my actual career, and said, "Stephanie, you just aren't equipped for the real world. You play with your coloring books while the adults handle real business." Coloring books. That's what she called the work that had paid her mortgage when she forgot to send the check. The work that had funded Sloane's influencer trips and my father's early retirement. I looked at the screen. Every account locked. Every card canceled. Every access point closed. They thought grief had made me weak. Made me soft and pliable and easy to control. They were about to learn that grief doesn't always break you. Sometimes it just burns away everything that isn't essential. I couldn't sleep that night, so I pulled up a spreadsheet I'd been keeping for 4 years. I called it the ledger. I'd started it after my father retired early because he deserved a break, and suddenly their bills became my problems to solve. Row 1, $96,000. That was what I'd paid toward their second mortgage. $2,000 a month for 4 years. Like clockwork. I remembered the first payment. My mother had called crying, saying they were going to lose the house. "We sacrificed everything for you girls," she'd sobbed. "And now we have nothing." I'd just landed my first major contract, illustrating a rare plant guide for a university press. I felt rich. I felt guilty. So I paid. My father's response wasn't "thank you." It was "good girl. At least you're making yourself useful." Making myself useful. That was my currency. The rent I paid for existing in their lives. I scrolled down the spreadsheet. Row 12, the influencer trip. Sloane wanted to go to Tulum for her birthday to build her brand. She couldn't afford the flight. My mother cornered me at Sunday dinner. "Your sister is so talented, Stephanie. She just needs one break. You have savings. Don't be selfish." Selfish. The word they used whenever I tried to keep anything for myself. I paid for the flight. Sloane posted 30 photos from that trip. I wasn't tagged in a single one. Row 24, the car accident. Sloane had totaled her BMW while texting. My father had co-signed the loan. He was panicking about his credit score. I paid the $5,000 deductible without argument. But here's what got me, looking at all these numbers. It wasn't just the money. It was the pattern. The system they'd built. They'd trained me like Pavlov's dog. They'd starve me of affection for weeks at a time, making me feel invisible. Then, just when I was about to walk away, they'd throw me a scrap. A compliment on my hair. A hug that lasted 2 seconds. A text that said "thinking of you." And I'd eat it up. I'd come running back thinking, "See? They do love me. If I just try harder, if I just give a little more, it'll stay like this." Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement. It's the most powerful conditioning tool that exists. It's how you train a rat to push a lever until it dies of exhaustion. You don't give it food every time. You give it food randomly. The unpredictability keeps the hope alive. Looking at the numbers now, the spell broke. My eyes landed on the most recent entry. 2 days after Peter died, a package arrived at my door. My mother had texted, "Sent you something to help. Love you." I'd opened it with shaking hands, thinking maybe it was a photo album or a blanket. Something to comfort me. It was bills. A stack of past due notices, credit card statements, a foreclosure warning for their beach house. All addressed to Sloan or my parents. On top was a yellow sticky note in my mother's handwriting. "Do the right thing, Stephanie. Family helps family." That was their condolence gift. A bill. They didn't see a grieving mother. They saw an inheritance. They saw a problem solver. They saw an ATM. The shame I'd carried for years, the shame of never being good enough, never being like Sloan, evaporated. It turned into something else. Fuel. The banging on my door started at 2 p.m. the next day. It wasn't a polite knock. It was the heavy, entitled pounding of people who think they own the place. I checked the peephole. My parents. I unlocked the deadbolt. Before I could say anything, my father pushed past me. He walked straight to my kitchen and opened the refrigerator. "Expired," he muttered, tossing out a carton of milk. "Wilted," he said, throwing away spinach. He was performing a wellness check, but it felt like a raid. Building a case. "Look, she can't even buy groceries. She can't function." My mother stood in the hallway, staring at my walls. I'd hung my latest series there, intricate watercolors of decaying magnolias. "It's so dark in here, Stephanie," she said, voice trembling with fake concern. "These drawings are obsessive. It's not healthy. You're spiraling." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What do you want?" "We want to save you," my mother said, turning to me with wet eyes. She reached into her designer handbag, the one I'd bought her for Christmas, and pulled out a thick document with a blue backing. She placed it on my coffee table. "It's a voluntary conservatorship," she said. "Just for the financial side. Just until you're stable again. We'll manage Peter's trust. We'll make sure bills get paid. You won't have to worry about anything." I stared at the papers. They wanted control. Not just of the money. Of me. "And if I don't sign?" I asked, voice flat. My father slammed the fridge door. "Then we call the authorities. We file for an involuntary psychiatric hold. We tell them you're a danger to yourself. We have neighbor statements. We have emails you sent Sloan." I froze. I hadn't sent Sloan any emails. They were forging evidence. I looked at my mother. She wasn't wringing her hands anymore. She was watching me with this terrifying calm. Like she'd already won. This is what abusers do. They convince themselves they're heroes. In their minds, they're not stealing a dead child's insurance money. They're rescuing their broken daughter from her own wealth. They have to believe I'm crazy, because if I'm sane, then they're just monsters. And their egos can't handle that reality. "We just want what's best for you," my mother whispered. "Do the right thing, Stephanie. Sign the papers. Don't make us have you committed." I walked to the window. Outside, parked in the fire lane, was Sloane's white Range Rover. She wasn't coming inside. She was sitting in the driver's seat with her phone mounted on the dashboard, ring light on, sunglasses reflecting the glow. She was filming. I could practically see the caption, "Intervention Day. Pray for my family." #mental health awareness. She was monetizing my breakdown in real time. Building the public narrative that I was unhinged so when they took the money, the world would applaud them for stepping up. They had it all planned. The legal threat. The social proof. The emotional blackmail. They backed me into a corner where my only options were to hand over the money voluntarily or be dragged away in a straitjacket while they took it anyway. I turned back to them. "I need to think." "You have 24 hours, my father said. "Tomorrow at noon, or we call the police." They left the papers on the table. As they walked out, my mother paused and touched my cheek. Her hand was cold. "We love you, Stephanie," she said. "We're doing this because we love you." I locked the door and slid the chain. They thought they had me cornered. But they forgot one thing. I'd already hired help. Graham's office felt more like a bunker than a law firm. Servers hummed along one wall. Frances, my late husband's aunt and a retired judge, sat at the head of the conference table, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. I'd called Graham the night Peter died. Not for grief counseling. For strategy. Because I knew my family, and I knew exactly what was coming. "We found why they're desperate," Graham said, sliding a tablet across to me. "It's not just debt." On the screen was a ledger from an illegal gambling operation in Atlanta. Sloane's name was everywhere. "She owes $400,000, Graham said flatly. "Your parents co-signed. These aren't banks, Stephanie. These are loan sharks. They have 48 hours, or it gets violent." Everything clicked into place. The panic. The threats. The sudden concern for my well-being. They didn't want to save me. They wanted my son's trust fund to save themselves. "And they're ready to destroy you to get it," Frances added. She opened a folder. "They've prepared court filings claiming you're suicidal. Fake emails. Forged affidavits. They even got your neighbor Mrs. Morales to sign a statement saying you were screaming at all hours." "Mrs. Morales is deaf," I said. "Exactly," Frances replied. "They're sloppy. Desperate people make mistakes." I pulled out my phone. I have data. My smartwatch shows I was in deep sleep the night they claimed I was manic. Security footage from my building proves I was quietly painting when they said I was destroying furniture. Graham smiled. "If they submit those lies under oath, it's felony perjury. But we need them to actually file it. We need them to commit to the fraud. We need a sting," Frances said. I looked at both of them. "I'll give them what they want. I'll pay." Frances leaned forward. "You understand what you're doing? Once you transfer that money, they'll think they've won. They'll get vicious when they realize it's trapped." "Good," I said. "Let them show everyone who they really are." The next day, I went to my parents' house. I played defeated. Shoulders slumped. Eyes red. Hair unbrushed. My father lectured me about responsibility. About how they'd always known I couldn't handle real life. My mother smiled that cold, satisfied smile. Sloane sat on the couch, impatient, checking her phone every 30 seconds. Probably calculating what she'd buy first. "I'll transfer the money," I said quietly. "Just, please stop. I can't take this anymore." The relief on their faces was almost funny. I opened my banking app. Entered the amount, $450,000. Enough to cover Sloane's debt plus a cushion. Hit confirm. They actually toasted. Champagne glasses clinking in the middle of the afternoon. My mother hugged Sloane. My father clapped me on the shoulder like I was a child who'd finally learned to use the toilet. Then my father's phone rang. His face went white. "All our accounts are frozen," he whispered. "Federal hold." I straightened up. The defeated posture disappeared. "Yesterday I filed an IRS whistleblower report," I said calmly. "That gambling ledger flagged all your accounts. The transfer I just made triggered an automatic freeze for suspected money laundering." Sloane's face went from confused to horrified in 2 seconds. "The loan sharks saw the money go through." "Exactly," I said. "They think you're trying to hide it from them. But the IRS has it locked down. They can see it exists, but nobody can touch it." My mother grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. "You can't, Stephanie. They'll kill us." "You should have thought about that before you tried to have me committed," I said, pulling my arm free. "Before you skipped your grandson's funeral to shop for beach houses." My father lunged toward me, but Frances stepped into the doorway. She'd been waiting in the car, recording everything through the window. "Touch her and I'll have you arrested," Frances said. "I'm a witness. And everything that just happened is recorded." I walked toward the door, then stopped. "I spent my whole life carrying you," I said. Building you safety nets. Paying your bills. Swallowing your insults. I thought that's what family meant. I thought if I just loved you hard enough, you'd love me back. They stared at me, champagne glasses still in their hands. But you taught me something important today. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face their own consequences. I walked out as the screaming started behind me. The fallout was swift and brutal. The IRS investigation revealed years of tax fraud. My parents lost their house within 3 months. Sloan fled to California to hide from the loan sharks, though I heard through mutual acquaintances that they caught up with her eventually. Last I heard, she's working retail and her Instagram is gone. My parents tried to sue me. That case lasted about 2 weeks before their lawyer dropped them when he realized they'd perjured themselves in multiple filings. I received a whistleblower reward, $175,000. Enough to start over somewhere new. I moved to Asheville. Got a small house with a studio space. Started taking commissions again. And I used the rest of Peter's trust to create the Peter Calloway Astronomy Scholarship. He'd loved space. Wanted to be an astronaut. Every night before bed, he'd make me look at star maps with him, pointing out constellations he'd memorized. Now 4 kids a year get full rides to study astrophysics. Because of him, I didn't lose my family that day in Savannah. I stopped carrying people who never loved me in the first place. And you know what's weird? For the first time in 32 years, I feel light. Like I can finally breathe. Like I can wake up in the morning without that weight on my chest telling me I'm not enough. Peter would have liked that. He used to tell me I worked too hard trying to make everyone happy. He was 8 years old and he saw what I couldn't see for 3 decades. I visit his grave every month. I bring him new star charts. Tell him about the scholarship recipients. About the kids who are getting to chase the dream he never got to finish. And I never, ever check my phone while I'm there. Because he deserves my full attention. He always did. Thanks for listening, and if this story hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about breaking free from toxic family dynamics and finding strength in the hardest moments. Sometimes the people who were supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from, and that's okay.